Okay, I want to ask Sushant Sareen this. As Jeepadsarthi said, we know that there's going to be this meeting in Samarkand in Uzbekistan next week. We don't know if the Indian and Chinese leaders will be meeting on the sidelines of the SCO summit there. Neither side is either confirming or denying that. Has this disengagement in PP15 got to do with that meeting potentially? And perhaps more importantly, does it also have to do with the 20th Party Congress, which is coming up later next month, where Xi Jinping is hoping that a third term will be sealed for him? Why has this PP15 disengagement happened now?
Zaka, a couple of things. One, I don't see what difference it will make whether the two principals meet in Samarkand, simply because of what has come out of their meetings in the past. We were having those informal summits, and despite that, we've had this kind of Chinese aggression along the line of actual control. Secondly, what is the Chinese motivation? It could be, I don't know how much the standoff along the LSE was going to impact on Xi's prospects insofar as the Congress is concerned. And I'm not even sure, how much it has to do only with the purported meeting which is likely to take place in Central Asia. But it could also be because maybe the Chinese feel that they haven't lost anything and India has not gained anything. So, or maybe India is a bit of a net loser in some ways, and I'll explain how in just a second. And that, if they settle right now, it doesn't really affect them adversely. And finally, it could be that they are actually cementing the line of actual control in a way they want by building up their own structures not too far from where the actual LSE or our perception or their perception of the LSE runs. Now, it could be a multiple of factors which could be at play. But what is a little concerning in this particular statement which the MEA has issued today, it says that the agreement ensures that the LSE in this area will be strictly observed and respected by both sides. Now, what LSE? Have we agreed that the LSE in this area has been delineated and both sides accept where the LSE runs? Because I was under the impression that until now we had been told that, our perceptions of the LSE and their perceptions of the LSE don't match. So as a result, there are these problems coming up.
Correct.
So have we settled the perceptions along the LSE, at least in this particular sector? I'm not very clear on that. So in many ways, while yes, it's a good thing that, the kind of eyeball to eyeball confrontation that was taking place, albeit small in this particular sector, has been kind of diffused. But the fact of the matter remains that I don't think this particular settlement is going to end our problems with the Chinese. In fact, I see further problems going forward.
Okay. I want to ask Andrew K.P. Pleung, one of the sort of conventional thoughts here in India, one of the conventional points of view here in India is the reason why the Chinese have agreed to this disengagement in PP15 now is twofold. Number one, we are seeing a significant ratcheting up of tensions between the United States and China over Taiwan, not least because of the visit by Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, recently. So there's a very, very clear ratcheting up of tensions there. China does not know how to play that game just yet. And secondly, there is also concerns that China can ill afford another foreign policy fiasco before October, where Xi Jinping is expected to be given a third term as president, as General Secretary of the Communist Party in that party congress that begins in the middle of October. So are these two factors really at play, and is that why the Chinese have agreed to this current round of disengagement?
Well, I don't think these are the reasons. First of all, China does know how to play the game on Taiwan. Actually, I won't go into that because this is not the forum for it. But nor is it got anything to do with the coming party congress. Now, I think that the significant thing is that both India and China, for the first time, agreed to issue a joint statement to de-escalate. Now, let's make quite clear, this is not going to solve the LAC problem for once for all. But it is significant that both countries, in spite of all these numerous talks in the past, for the first time have agreed to join a joint statement, and both sides agreed to de-escalate. Now, why now? Well, I think that both countries are seeing major things of writings on the wall of a world-changing world order. This is reflected in India's recent stand to distance itself from the United States over Ukraine. For example, India has refused to follow Americans' input to sanction Russia. And so that both sides are seeing that there could be areas that both sides could be on the same page. And that's why China has decided.
Okay, one particular area where the Chinese, I suspect, are seeing a little bit of, circumspection, if you will, is after the Russia-Ukraine war started, Brahmachalani, and admittedly Russia is a much bigger military power, it's been a much older military power perhaps than even China, and the way the Russians have had to face with losses every step down the lane as far as the Ukraine war is concerned, has that sort of recalibrated Beijing's own position, perhaps its own capabilities to take on the rest of the world and the systems of the rest of the world? After all, Russia was not able to do that with Ukraine. What's the guarantee that China will be able to do that with Taiwan?
Well, first, what is happening is not...
First, Russia occupies one...
Brahmachalani, that question is to Brahmachalani. Thank you.
Russia today occupies 1/5 of Ukraine, which is the largest country located entirely within Europe. Sanctions against Russia have failed to force Russia to retreat from Ukraine. That can only embolden China. Another factor that we have to keep in mind is that the Chinese economy is 10 times larger than the Russian economy. The Western sanctions have failed to cause economic collapse in Russia. And if, in fact, the West is now having to cope with the blowback from the sanctions that they've imposed on Russia. The energy crisis in the West is a direct consequence of the Western sanctions on Russia. If similar sanctions were to be imposed on China, with an economy 10 times larger, in the event of a Chinese aggression against Taiwan, the impacts on the West would be far greater. So what's happening in Ukraine can only embolden China. But coming to India and China, the border crisis, I think we lose sight of one important fact, that we are focusing now on the smallest Chinese encroachment that happened in April 2020. Let's not forget the bigger picture. What has happened in the last 28 months during the standoffs is that China has engaged in a frenzied buildup of its military infrastructure and capabilities along the Himalayas. In effect, it has changed the status quo with its buildup. So against this background, the return of genuine peace and tranquility in the border areas still looks distant.